Your administration made a lot of moves throughout the last few days after we know that Afghan national is the suspected shooter of these National Guardsmen.
People that shouldn't be in our country. That's right.
So you announced that asylum...
And that includes Somalians and it includes plenty of others.
How long does your administration plan to pause asylum into the U.S.?
I think a long time.
Can you give any
We
kind
don't
of
want
time?
them.
What's
We
a
don't
long
want those
time?
people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit.
And then
But it could be a long time.
you said that...
We don't want those people. Do you understand that?
I understand.
You understand it?
I understand.
Let me just tell you something. We don't want those people. Does that make sense? You know why we don't want them? Because many have been no good and they shouldn't be in our country.
What do you claim those people? Can you
The
clarify?
people from different countries that are not friendly to us and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want that.
On Thanksgiving Day, President Trump shocked the world by announcing that the United States will permanently pause migration from all third world countries. And within 24 hours, the administration made it real, halting all immigration, naturalization, and citizenship pathways for people from 19 designated nations. For some, this is about national security. For others, it's a devastating blow to families, vulnerable migrants, and the idea of America as a welcoming nation. But here's the big question for us in Canada. How should Canada respond? Should Canada stay the course on its humanitarian commitments, or should it follow the US in tightening its borders during a time of global instability and rising political polarization? Today, we'll be breaking down exactly what happened, what it means for the continent of North America, and why Canadians, from policymakers to everyday residents, should pay attention. This isn't just an American story. This could reshape the entire Canada-US relationship, migration patterns, labor markets, and even our national identity.
Malians ripped off that state for billions of dollars. Billions. Every year. Billions of dollars. And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly did the Trump administration do? The new US policy halts all forms of immigration and naturalization from 19 third world countries. This doesn't just apply to new applicants. It also affects people already living in the United States, including those who previously passed their citizenship tests and were waiting to take the oath. It even impacts migrants who entered the country legally between 2021 and now. That's unprecedented. The administration is framing this as a national security response, citing a tragic case where a National Guard soldier was killed by an Afghan national. For supporters, this decision signals a reset, an attempt to reassert state control over the border and eliminate any perceived risk. But for immigrant communities, it's sending shockwaves. Thousands of families now face uncertainty, fear, and the possibility of removal or indefinite limbo. Beyond the moral and humanitarian questions, this move is also strategic. The US is in the middle of a fierce internal debate about public safety, demographic change, and the future of immigration. Trump is positioning himself as the leader who will take the hardest line possible, regardless of how the courts or Congress respond in the coming weeks. But the implications don't stop at the US border. Migrants affected by the freeze will now look elsewhere, and Canada becomes the next logical destination. That means pressure on Canada's asylum system, its refugee commitments, and its already overstretched housing and labor markets. We're heading into a phase where US policy will directly spill into Canadian reality. As the US takes a sharp turn towards restriction, Canada will face a crossroads: stay open, tighten controls, or redefine its role on the global stage.
In these third world nations, they don't have systems like we do. There's no way to clearly vet these people, 100% that they're safe to come to this country from these third world nations. President Trump's doing the right thing. I really, truly think that most of them are going to end up being deported because we're not going to be able to properly vet them.
Now, let's examine how this US decision directly affects Canada. Whenever America shifts its immigration stance, Canada feels the ripple effect almost immediately. This time, those ripples may turn into waves. First, the economic impact. Many of the 19 restricted countries supply workers to North America's healthcare, logistics, agriculture, and service industries. If those pipelines shut down in the US, skilled and unskilled workers may redirect applications to Canada. That could mean more workers for our aging labor force, but also more pressure on housing, healthcare, and education systems already struggling to keep up. Second, the security implications. If migrants who are now barred from the US choose irregular pathways like crossing from New York to Quebec, the Safe Third Country Agreement may come under strain again. Canada could see increased border activity, similar to the Roxham Road surge, fueling political debates around safety, identity, and national capacity. Third, the political impact. Canada is entering a moment where immigration is becoming a kitchen table issue for the first time in decades. Polls show a decline in public support for high immigration levels. The Trump freeze will amplify conversations here about whether Canada is too open, particularly if the US is slamming its doors shut. And fourth, bilateral relations. Canada and the US have historically managed migration in a coordinated way. But if the US embraces a hardline posture while Canada remains liberal, the two countries may drift apart. Different migration policies could create border tensions, refugee backlog disputes, and disagreement on security assessments. This is not just an American policy change. It's a regional shift that Canada cannot ignore.
Hundreds of thousands of people have come into this country that are murderers, rapists, terrorists.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is recommending a massive travel ban following the recent attack near the White House against two National Guard officers. Noem made the announcement yesterday in a scathing post on X. ABC 10 News reporter Danny Miskell looks at the unexpected impact such a ban could have.
We are seeing more ripple effects following last week's terrorist attack near the White House. Now the government plans to be stricter with its vetting process on green card visa holders. They're also pausing applications for asylum seekers, even potentially adding 30 more countries to the U.S.'s travel ban list.
And now we reach the big question. Should Canada follow the United States and adopt a more restrictive migration posture? On one side, some Canadians argue yes. They say Canada's systems are stretched, housing affordability is collapsing, temporary foreign worker numbers are at a historic high, asylum claims are rising, and cities are asking for federal support. They argue that Canada needs a pause or recalibration to regain control of the system, just like the US claim. But on the other side, critics argue that copying the US would undermine Canada's long-standing moral leadership. Canada has built its identity around humanitarianism, multiculturalism, and compassion. A blanket freeze, especially on targeting specific regions, would not only be politically explosive, but potentially unconstitutional. It could also dismantle decades of careful immigration planning that supports economic growth. So, what's the middle ground? Canada could tighten vetting, adjust intake numbers, or prioritize economic categories without adopting an outright ban. It could also invest in smarter border technology, more efficient processing, and better integration support. Canada can strengthen control without abandoning its values. Ultimately, the decision comes down to what kind of country Canada wants to be in the next decade. A fortress, a sanctuary, or something in between. One thing is certain, the US has made its move, and Canada will now have to define its own position clearly, intentionally, and with full awareness of what's at stake.